All right, welcome back to Sparks of Joy Studio. I am going to show you guys a few things. Everybody has been very receptive to the reverse transfer method. So I want to show you some of the things that I created using this method. And then we are actually going to do a couple of them on different surfaces so you see what it looks like. I shouldn't say different surfaces. We're going to use all wood today, but different sizes. I created many of these. This one actually was created by Shelly at the Vintage Hen and Chick. She has this print or this download available on her website. I can leave a link below. The other ones are ones that I designed myself and printed and now have transferred them on. You can get a lot of them on my website, either free or for a very reasonable cost, like $1. And I also, on my other channel, show you how you can design these yourself if you do want to create your own and print them. I have a couple of prints that I just created for us to work with today. Here is one with some florals and music sheets. And I have one with this cute little bird. And then I wanted to show you some other styles. For example, ones that look a little bit more like photography. This one I thought was really nice. And then I got a fun one for you. So I am going to take some of these and we are going to find different places to place them on. And I'm going to be using, for all of today's projects, I will use the DecoArt Decoupage Matte Glue. I don't have much time to record this before I post it, so I wanted to make sure I got something done quick for you. But I promise in a future video, we can do a test with each of the different decoupage mediums and how those transfers work with each of them. So let's work with this one today. We're going to start by painting a variety of surfaces in a white chalk or acrylic matte paint. So make sure it is a matte finished paint and make sure that it's as smooth as it can be. So I have this that I've already painted in white. I have these, I believe this is milk paint that was on here. So I'm just going to give it a coat of white. These two, I did sand them down so they are relatively smooth. There's a couple of like little nicks here and there, but that's okay. And then I also have this little tote with this butterfly. It's got an all-in-one finish paint on it. So I'm just going to paint it with one coat of white and then we will do something on these. All right, so let's get started. All right, for these first two pieces of scrap wood that I have, I'm going to be using Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Buttercream. I know the last couple of videos I did, I used the alchemy paint. So I wanted to kind of be able to share with you what it looks like with different types of paints. You can also just use a simple acrylic paint, like I said, as long as it's a matte finish, you can use it. So we're just going to quickly paint these up and then let them dry. I probably will give it 2 coats just to make sure that I have a good amount of paint on there, because I do sand back the project before I do the reverse transfer. And that just allows it to have that a good, like, I guess, place for it to adhere once that's sanded back. It makes it a little bit more matte and ready for the paint to accept the transfer. For these butterflies, I have a little bit of this paint left. This is drop cloth. It's another Dixie Belle chalk paint. So I'm going to just do this. This is, again, they're both off whites, the buttercream and this. This one is a little bit more, I guess, a little more dull than the buttercream. The buttercream has a little bit more of a yellow undertone. And this one reminds me of drop cloth. So I just wanted to be able to share with you and show you how you can use colors that are like the different shades of white and still get a good transfer. So I want to get 2 coats, or actually this probably only needs 1 on here. And then we will move on to the next step here. We're going to set a timer together and we'll see what happens after 2 hours of this transfer sitting. All right, here is one of our projects today. This one is already dry. It already had a coat underneath of it. I think it was an all-in-one paint underneath. That's the only reason I did an extra coat. I'm going to just very lightly sand it. It doesn't really need much sanding because it does feel pretty much like a matte finish, and it feels very smooth to the touch. So other thing I did was I made a rookie mistake when I printed these. Where's the original one? And I forgot that because it's a reverse transfer, we need to make sure the text is reversed too. So this is actually not the exact one that I did. I don't see where that other one is. But anyway, it's the same concept. Anytime you're doing text, you have to make sure that you have this reversed. You can flip it using Canva. I've used PowerPoint. I'm sure there's a way to do it on other apps, but those are the two that I use the most. And then I guess you could use Google Slides. Anyway, but just make sure you have it reversed before you transfer it on. Same way that like if it was a paint inlay, right? Okay, I'm going to line this up. I probably am going to just go ahead and cut off the extra pieces. That way, when I go to transfer it on, it will be a little bit more, it'll be a little easier also to line up, because if you want it to be centered, and this is like a unique surface because it has that hole on the side. So I'm going to go ahead and get out my decoupage medium. I'm using DecoArt decoupage matte glue. And let's see, go ahead and I used a color laser printer for my image. So you do have to work rather quickly because this is a bigger surface. This is not like decoupage where you would do like bits at a time. You actually need to kind of work quickly and efficiently when you're doing a project like this. I'm going to spread it all over. You don't need any water. You don't use any mister. That comes later. For right now, it's literally just putting the decoupage medium directly onto that paper and then placing it onto your surface. Making sure it's got no bubbles, it doesn't have any bubbles, anything like that. And then I've been using, here it is. You want to kind of use something to help press it down the same way you would if it was like a paint inlay. You can use a brayer, you can use, you know, a credit card, you can use pretty much anything. You can even just use your hands. Like I've done that too. I'm not going to push so hard right here where that hole is, just because obviously we're not going to be using that part, and I do not want it to rip away or smear any other part of where it's transferred down. And then we're going to wait 2 hours. So right now it is 5:49. So 2 hours from now, we'll come back and we will see what rubs back. I think what I was going to do with this one is something like this. Now, the music notes are going to be backwards. I'm not that worried about that. That's a little bit different. So I guess I thought this would look cool, like right here. And what you can do is you can cut apart some of these like images that I've created that are basically like a decoupage paper. You can just use parts of it and save the other parts for later. I have a couple of scraps that I've saved like from the other day. I saved these scraps to do on a tiny tag. And I'm going to do the same exact method. I'm just going to grab my decoupage medium. Probably a little too much. You want to make sure you're not putting too much decoupage on. You want to have enough, but if you do too much, that could also work against you when you're going to distress it back or going to rub back. So make sure you're putting enough that it's like pretty evenly distributed and coated well, but you do not want it to be like globbed on. That will work against you. All right, so I have my last one. I did have to reprint it so that the text was going the right way, but I just wanted to show you when you have the text like off to the side like this, and this is clearly longer. The other one was easy because it was like just centered, easy to go, easy to place on there. This one is not, and I want to make sure I don't cut off the speech bubble, and I want to make sure I don't cut off my man. So I just positioned it on there. I made sure I can kind of see through here to make sure that I go a little bit in from where the edge of the paper is. And then on this side, once I discovered like that, okay, it just was going to cut off part of his shoulder, nothing else. I just make a like good crease there so that I know when I turn it around, I can go ahead and cut it. And that's going to make it much easier for me to ensure that I get the right placement when it comes time to actually place it onto my piece. So then we just do that and we're good to go. All right, let's get this last one done. And then we are going to have some time to wait, and I'll be able to give you guys some other suggestions that I have for some things that you would need. So I was getting some questions about like what I print this on. I will tell you, it is literally just copy paper, and you want to make sure you're getting the cheapest copy paper or printer paper that you can find. So it's really hard because a lot of, everybody's looking for high quality. You're actually looking for the opposite. I will link below the paper that I'm using here. I buy it in like reams of, 500 because I use copy paper, not just for this, but also for other things that I do for this business as well as my other one. So I have a ton of it, and this just makes it a lot easier because I can use the same paper for a variety of things, and it works perfectly. All right, I got this position on. Let me just go ahead and make sure that this is all the way adhered, and then we are going to set it aside for 2 hours. All right, so this is my last one that I'm putting together tonight. I don't think I'm going to get to the butterfly tonight because I want to make sure I finish these up so you guys can see the end result. And I have some other stuff to do with my kids. So I'm going to go ahead and put these here. What are we at? 6:07. So now it is 6:07. I'm going to put these to the side. See you in 2 hours.
It is now 2 hours later, and I am going to begin rubbing off that paper. I dampen that rag with a mister bottle. I do not want it to get very wet, and I am slowly rubbing away that paper with my fingers. Not necessarily slowly, I shouldn't say it like that. I do it lightly, and I continue going from the middle out because when you do this, it allows you to keep as much of that image intact as possible in the middle. As if you try to start from the edge going in, it might rip off that paper, which peels back some of the image as you're rubbing it off. So it's best to start in the middle. It's best to use not a lot of water. That's why I use a mister bottle and not necessarily like a bowl of water next to me. And when I need to add some more water to that paper, instead of misting it onto the rag again, I actually mist onto my fingers and then rub my fingers together and then use that to continue rubbing off the transfer. What I absolutely love about this method is it gives you an end supply or an endless supply of options for different types of images, different types of decor, different types of transfers that you can use. It is a little bit more tedious than, let's say, a rub-on transfer, but the end result is actually a lot more permanent. Once you've sealed these, and you do need to seal them, I'm using Big Top by DIY here, but once they are sealed, you have basically a stamped on image, but you've done it using ink from a printer. I absolutely love this method. It has been an amazing seller for me, especially around Christmas time when I am doing this method on wood rounds. Please let me know in the comments, is this something you have tried? Is this something you're interested in trying? And what else would you like to see using this method? I will leave the images that I use today available for you. It'll be what we call a flash freebie, meaning they are only going to be available for a limited time for free, and then there will be a price added to that download. All right, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I will see you again very soon.